How have our woodlands evolved over the last centuries, from the Roman influence with sweet chestnut coppice to helping to manage the landscape and dealing with biodiversity and climate crisis? I'm Mark Townsend, Head of Woodland Management at Savills. Join me as we discover how trees and woodlands have evolved over thousands of years and how strategic management is important to ensure they thrive into the future. Today, we're meeting Davina, one of our estate owners based in the south of England. Good morning, Davina. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. Extremely well, thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us to your estate. Would you be able to give us a brief introduction to your family's history on the estate?
In personal terms, I guess early memories go back to coming here as a child. It was my father's childhood home and back to his great-grandfather. And coming along the drive, I think, is my clearest memory. The drive winds between ancient beeches, and it was like a cathedral soaring above the car. And I just loved it. And we used to go out into the woods to see what wildlife we could find. I was always talking far too much. We didn't see any wildlife, but it was the trees that completely captured me. Just looking there, seeing the variety, the different colour, that was absolutely wonderful. I'm now aware that when I was growing up and loving those beeches, I was the inheritor of the brilliance of Victorian visionaries to plant what they would never see thrive. That's why after the devastation of the '87 gale, which took out all those mature beeches, I've wanted to replant, not for my generation, but for other generations down the line to have that same sense of tipping their heads back and saying, just look at this.
My team and I manage a lot of estates across the south, but what's very special about this estate in particular is the family feel of it. And it doesn't feel like a commercial estate, although I'm guessing for you there is an element of making sure it is commercial for the long term.
Yes, it needs to be viable, doesn't it? And that's why we need professional advisors, because we can go around and be sentimental and love it. But for it to be sustainable and well managed, we need professional help. I want a balance, that it should never become something where it's all about the spreadsheet. So there are areas which feel more relaxed and which are primarily about beauty and loving it, and other bits that are a bit more practical.
Thank you very much for telling us a bit about your family history, and join us as we go for a walk around the estate. This is part of the estate that we call Sandpit. Several years ago, a storm came through here and badly damaged the timber, which meant that we had to clear fell the site. Following clear fell, we restocked it with 4 different species of conifer. This is to help with the climate resilience, but also to diversify the timber income for the estate. Another important piece of work that the forestry team do is looking after notable trees in the landscape. These beech trees have been here for hundreds of years, and they mark an old parish boundary. And it shows how humans and trees have interacted in the landscape for generations. Cutting down trees is an important part of woodland management. In order to enable the trees to reach their full potential, some do need to be thinned out. This block of mixed conifer behind me is coming up to the point where it will need another thinning. In this process, we will remove the weakest trees or the ones with the poorest form, and that will enable the ones that are retained to put on the maximum amount of growth and enable a maximum return to the estate in years to come. We have sweet chestnut coppice growing in some parts of the estate. These trees are cut on a 15 to 20 year cycle, which produces these logs, which will be turned into fencing, which will last longer than softwood fencing products. Thank you very much for letting us explore your wonderful estate. Would you mind picking out some of your highlights?
Mark, what a difficult question. I think one of the things that really matters to me here is long-term stewardship. Yeah. So seeing new areas being planted up, the variety of trees that are going in, and the thought of that future, that really delights me. That's absolutely lovely. But on the other hand, I've still got to say the ancient trees give me deep joy. So Mark, as you know, I love the present here on the estate, but I wanted to ask you, what do you think the treescape here will be like in maybe 50 years' time?
That's a really tricky one to answer. It very much depends on what happens with climate change. So it's hard to have a crystal ball, but what we have been trying to do is make sure we're planting a wide variety of species so that we can hedge against anything coming in and also to manage any risk from any individual pests. But what we are trying to do is to make sure there's a good mix of all age classes and lots of different species. Thank you very much again, Davina, for letting us explore your wonderful estate.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure. It's always good to walk round together.
Trees and woodlands do need ongoing management. So if you have any questions about trees at all, please do contact one of the Savills Forestry team.